Last month, Poppy Playtime released a Chapter 3 trailer and a ton of teasers, which after hours on hours of research, I think I used to solve the plot of Chapter 3 early, revealing what this creature here is. It's not the prototype. What happened to the Playcare location, and why I even think there's going to be multiple prototypes. Like the video if you end up enjoying, but let's get right into it. So, Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, as we just said, is dropping this winter, releasing a new trailer, with more of them sure to come in the upcoming weeks. But after looking through every single inch of this trailer and documenting every single piece of the lore in the game, I think I've figured out the plot of Chapter 3, and it's much darker than I thought. See, going back into the newly released teaser, in order to solve the story of Chapter 3, we need to revisit a theory that's actually been discussed a lot on this channel, being the monster cult theory, which if you're new here, simply is an old theory made back when Project Playtime first came out that suggested Playtime Co and the characters inside of it were in some kind of cult or religious group, based on things like this image we were given a few months back showing an Eye of Providence, which is an eye symbol used to represent a god figure, famously used on things like the American dollar bill, wrapped around in a poppy flower, which we know was used to somehow turn these toy creatures to life, judged by the poppy doll's existence, and the experiment found in Elliot Ludwig's office that showed them testing using poppy flowers on rats to unsuccessfully try and bring them back to life, giving the impression that somehow in this universe, the poppy flowers had supernatural abilities to bring the creations of this factory into life, and when failing to recreate these creatures themselves, they seemingly made an entire cult around the poppy flower, using this iconic eye badge on things like their uniforms and even having it be Elliot Ludwig's office key. But while this cult theory was nothing more than a fun guess back at the time, the Playcare and everything we see in Chapter 3 basically confirms this theory, as in the Chapter 3 trailer, we see things like candles on the ground as if there was some sort of ritual going on, or most importantly, we could see a ton of writing all over the walls that appear to reference cult-like beings, as in the final scene we could see words used such as followers of the path, seemingly referencing followers like followers of a cult, and path like potentially the scratched over path we see in the trailer that after falling leads to the massive mechanical being surrounded by these candles with a bunch of monster body parts all over it, seeming to be some sort of grave, which we will talk a lot more about later. But going back to the writing, we also see in the corner some blacked out text that after spending some time filling it out seems to spell out the words wrapped us in garlands, with garlands being an accumulation of flowers or plants like, I don't know, say a poppy flower, that are put on things like Christmas trees and other areas to symbolize culture or religious purpose, once again tying into the idea of a cult around these creatures, while also finishing the wall off saying never forget the hour of joy, which is a term that we've seen all over the game for a while now that presumably seems to be referencing the hour that all of the toys were freed and the employees were attacked, which we can actually hear happening in the final log of Chapter 1.
Final log. In relation. Experiment 1006.
Other phrases of writing are also written into the wall here, like my somniferous flock, with somniferous meaning to induce sleep, and flock possibly being a reference to all of the children or birds or other creatures, although to be honest, I'm not sure. Plus, there's a ton of other text written into the walls in the trailer, such as this one that says, the original saved me, I rejoice in him. But with all of this writing aside, the biggest question I wondered about all of this is who in the world could be writing this? And why would they be writing all of these glorious things seemingly about the monsters who try to kill us throughout the entire game? And to answer this question, we have to look at the currently ongoing Chapter 3 computer ARG from last week, as in the past few days from recording, there have been two secret phrases found inside of this ARG, one being Spectre Matus and the other being Omniscient Eye, with the latter phrase, Omniscient Eye, actually being a synonym for an Eye of Providence, once again referencing this poppy image of an all-seeing eye, and furthermore, the phrase Spectre Matus found in a hidden frame of the teaser trailer is actually Latin for specter of fear, with the word specter actually sometimes being used to describe a ghost or spirit being, and in fact, if you actually combine the words as spectremetus, it literally just translates directly to the word ghostly, which I personally believe is 100% meant to be a pointer that the people writing all these words all over the wall could actually be the spirits of the children who once lived in the Playcare but no longer exist in the factory, factory and were turned into the monsters. In fact, we know this because this isn't the first time these spirit-like beings have talked to us, as in the game Project Playtime, we are contacted by another mysterious creature who sends us the phone we saw in the Chapter 3 trailer itself, who actually ends up blaming us for their creation, saying, "You wonder who we are, but why? You should know. It was your doing that made us." Referencing to how we play as the employees in the game who inadvertently turned all of the children into the toys in the factory. So it seems clear to me that the mysterious beings talking to us throughout the game appear to be the children who were killed in the factory. But let's hold on to this thought for a little bit, because the thing I really want to focus on when discussing this theory most of all is this creature right here. A massive embodiment of lots of seen and possibly even unseen toys all hanging over this weird mechanical embodiment of parts, with Mommy Longlegs, who we already saw in Chapter 2 right here, Huggy Wuggy right here, and even other miscellaneous characters like Bron the dinosaur. See, I've already made a video giving my first impressions on this character, and to me, it seemed like a no-brainer. This is the prototype, right? Experiment 1006. We see him come and take Mommy Longlegs, and we see her body right here along with the rest of the toys, right? Plus, we hear in the prototype tape in Chapter 2 that he liked to turn things like alarm clocks into laser pointers to attack the employees, so he was really good at taking items and turning them into something else, sort of like what we see here. This creature has to be him, right? Well, after doing some more research, I actually think no, it's not. But not for the reason you'd probably think. See, just physically, while it's really hard to make any clear assumptions in the dark lighting, you can't really see any sort of hand formation from the prototype here at all. It appears to just be made of all sorts of random parts and toys and stuff in that vein. But what you'll also notice is that whatever this thing is, it doesn't really move. Rather, in the admittedly short clip, it stays completely still, almost like it wasn't even really an alive thing at all. Plus, the time it takes from us seeing the prototype take Mommy Longlegs' head to the time we crash the train in Chapter 3 is like maybe 5 minutes. So I don't know how it would go from just a hand to all of this in such a short amount of time. Like, where did all the body parts even come from? No, I don't think that this is the prototype. In fact, I don't even think it's a toy at all, but rather, what if I told you guys that this thing appears to be a shrine, being a holy area or building used once again by religions and cults as a place for worship or connection, often used for rituals or in darker instances for making sacrifices, which we can see being done here judged by the candles laying at the bottom of it, along with the long line of scratch marks that lead to the shrine itself and the message by what seems to be these spirits directing us to follow it. Plus, going back to earlier when I was mentioning the writing on the walls, this would also explain why there's all of this writing from these spirits we mentioned earlier, because this shrine with all of the candles wrapped around it appears to instead be an active ritual with all of the dead toys seen inside of the factory like Huggy and Mommy Longlegs laying around it, possibly using the shrine as a way to revive and communicate with the dead spirits and make their presence known. Kind of like what you would see with things like a Ouija board where you light candles and use it to talk to the dead, which is exactly why we see all of this writing here in the Playcare where they lived and not anywhere else in the game. This would also explain why when we die in the game, we also see what appears to be these same spirits communicating with us from the Playcare walls, saying very similar things such as, "Nobody is here by choice," and "The prototype has saved us, isn't he wonderful?" And the reason they talk to us here is because, guess what? We are dead, so we can of course hear the voices talking to us from the other side after we die and become spirits of our own. And if you need even more proof, this is backed up even more by the fact that, like we said, the writing on all of the walls clearly seems to be done by the now passed away children in the factory, and one of the death messages in the game actually says there are fates worse than death, referencing, in my opinion, how the employees in the Bigger Bodies initiative forcefully turned the children into the large disgusting monsters, forcing them to work all day for free, according to Harley Sawyer, for the rest of their lives. A far worse fate than simply just dying, as they say here, confirming the connection between the two spirits talked about. But as crazy as this theory sounds, let's assume it's all true. This still leaves a couple massive holes in my theory, that of which being, if this thing is really a shrine, then what is the purpose of the prototype? Why does he collect the bodies of people like Mommy Longlegs, and also why was Mommy Longlegs so afraid of him in the first place? Furthermore, if the people writing on these walls were truly the haunted children who were turned into the toys, why do they seem so happy? And why do they say things like, "The prototype has saved us," while they rejoice about the factory going extinct? And to answer that last question, if we go back and look at the Playcare photos, we can see that the children were in horrific suffering. suffering, with them reporting scarily dark nightmares seen in one of the ARG documents along with the drawings in the trailer. But furthermore, just looking at all of their photos, even before their disappearance, they all look extremely miserable with not a single one smiling, while others reminisce on when they still had their parents back with them and weren't dragged into this factory. In fact, in the Huggy Wuggy VHS tape, a popular theory is that if you didn't know, at the very end of that tape, seconds before being caught, we could see Huggy directly standing in front of somebody's house before getting captured. And so some think it's possible that this could have been the home that Huggy Wuggy, when they were a real child, used to live at. So it seems pretty clear that the children, when they were turned into these toys, were by absolutely no means happy. They were extremely depressed, were kept in tightly packed together areas, and they even had to add fake lights into the game station and presumably other areas just to keep them from going completely crazy. However, this is where the prototype came in. The prototype, as we saw in his many logs around Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, was extremely violent against the employees, even killing one during his original testing. And when the factory would end up getting abandoned, the last log we ever hear from the employees is in their final log, where they blame the prototype for the factory falling apart, saying, "Final log in relation 1006, the prototype. Coordination and cooperation is evidently within his skill set, as well as the skill set with all other experiments of his type. Those still missing, today's events are no doubt in relation to him," telling us quite simply that the prototype was involved in the destruction of the factory, causing all of the employees to go missing, while also freeing the children turned monsters from the wrath and forceful work from the workers like Leith Pierre, meaning like how the employees saw the poppy flower as some sort of godlike creature that brought life, the children might have seen the prototype in the exact same light. And when the toys eventually died in the factory, whether that be from the employees' mistreatment of the monsters or when we do it ourselves in the base game, among many other number of different possibilities, the prototype seems to be taking their body parts and making them a part of this shrine, causing them to be reborn into a spirit, freeing them from their body that they were forced into when brought into this factory, hence why they are constantly rejoicing about the hour of joy, or the hour that they were seemingly freed, and why they also write other things into the walls, such as, "The original saved me, I rejoice in him." The original being the very first version of the prototype, Experiment 1006, who is also a male, hence why they also call him a him, and they also appear to be the one collecting the body parts and building the shrine, turning their spirits into life. And as crazy as it sounds, I also think that this teaser confirms that there might be multiple prototypes, as like I said, they refer to what I believe is Experiment 1006 as the original, as in the one the employees were first testing in the factory and the one who seems to have killed all of the employees, but also in their own final log, as we just said, specifically they say the words "coordination and cooperation is evidently within his skill set, as well as the skill set of all other experiments of his type." What in the world does his type mean? They don't just mean monsters in general, they're very open about the idea that characters like Huggy Wuggy are the good type of monsters, specifically because he listened to the employees and doesn't ever try to fight back. But what do they mean by this when talking about the prototype? Could this possibly mean that there's other people and other prototypes just like him? Or better yet, could there even be more physically advanced versions of the prototype that are more than just one little hand who can do all sorts of other things in the factory? It's an extremely interesting idea that they've alluded to on multiple different occasions now. And if this really means that there's going to be multiple prototypes, then we have a lot in store for the next coming chapters. So the TLDR of all of this is that the prototype seems to have killed all the employees and saved the rest of the toys, while also allowing them to live eternally as spirits inside of their original resting place, the Playcare, while also taking parts from other deceased toys and bringing them to the shrine to turn them back to life. If anything, it seems like the prototype is the good guy of the story. But something I should mention is that it doesn't always seem this way, as we see toys like Mommy Longlegs who actually desperately beg for us to not kill her and not get collected by the prototype to become part of him. He'll make me part of him! Despite him being good based on all of our evidence. Why is that? And my personal theory is that, see, Mommy Longlegs, or Mary Payne, her child's name, we know most likely at least used to work in the Playcare, because we know Mary Payne originally originally lived in the Playcare in her incident report where she had bad nightmares as a child, and in her Chapter 2 relocation document where she was transferred into the game station as Mommy Longlegs, it was implied that she really loved the children more than anything and was extremely nice, but hated all the employees and was violent against them. So they moved her from what I can only believe is the Playcare, since she worked with the children, to the game station where she could play with them while the employees watched from a safe distance. In fact, a game station protocol required that you stayed 20 yards away from her at all times because she was just that violent. And the reason why I think this is the case is because when she was raised in the Playcare with all of the red gas and stuff going on there, she got to see what the employees were doing to all of the children behind the scenes, causing them to be in complete misery and then eventually disappear from her sight forever, as she says in her final chilling speech and statue, saying, "It was always so sad to see the kids go. They called me mommy because I was the closest thing they ever had to one. But they'd come for games and never come back. They left mommy to die alone." So at least it seems from her perspective that she didn't know what happened with all the children, or even what happened with the rest of the factory. All she knew was that the children went to the game station, went to the Playcare where the shrine and the prototype seemingly plotted their plan, and never came back. Hence her immense fear in Chapter 2, right when we kill her and she realizes she's going to be sent back into the Playcare where she had her traumatizing nightmare from the ARG, along with where all the children after leaving the game station went missing, and was going to be put into the shrine herself next, becoming, as she says, a part of him. Another possible explanation for her fear is also in Project Playtime there's a chance of getting a loading screen showing this painting here, detailing the prototype seemingly controlling Mommy Longlegs as if she were some sort of puppet. So maybe he has some sort of evil intentions with the toys that she knows about but we haven't seen yet. I'm not exactly sure. But with all this being said, there's still one question I haven't been able to answer with the hours upon hours of research done for this video. That being, let's say everything I just said in this video is 100% correct. The Mommy Longlegs stuff, the shrine, and also the spirits writing on the walls and talking to us whenever we die in the game. That still leaves one big thing to be unexplained, which is that whenever the many death messages play once the game is over, the messages fade into white, restarting the game. But what's interesting is that on some rare occurrences, it will actually fade into red depending on the message. And this is really where I'm completely stumped. What does the fading into white mean, and what does the fading into red mean? Does this suggest there could be good and bad spirits who talk to us, hence why sometimes they're nice and sometimes they're mean? I'm not exactly sure, and that's where I leave it to you guys. What do you guys think all these messages mean? Comment down below your theories and check out this video while you wait.